Well, as far as the Argento classics, I have reviewed Tenebrae, Suspiria, and Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Now it's time to review one that I hear in talks quite often, Phenomena. Phenomena stars Jennifer Connelly, Donald Pleasance, and is directed by Dario Argento. What's up, guys? It's exciting to be doing another Argento movie. Argento quickly has become one of my favorite directors. At least, you know, his 70s and 80s type stuff. I guess like John Carpenter. I actually picked up Phenomena, and I guess the first thing that grabbed my attention about this movie was the fact that Jennifer Connelly was in it, as well as Donald Pleasance. Nice surprise. But other than that, I didn't really know too much about this movie. Didn't even really know the premise. Didn't even know that this was not region free, and I had to watch it on Amazon Prime. Luckily, it was available on Amazon Prime, and I'm a Prime member. But looking forward to getting into this one. So first, quick plot synopsis. At the beginning of this movie, there is a murder. There's this like tourist bus going. One of the passengers, she ends up going to this house, this like secluded house in the middle of the woods, and then we see this these chains that are like shackled to this wall, and they get pulled off. And she gets chased through the woods into this waterfall, and then she gets decapitated. So then later in the movie, Jennifer Connelly plays Jennifer Corvinus. How convenient. And her father happens to be a famous actor in America, but she comes to Sweden, I believe, and she's at this like boarding school there. And Jennifer has this like very unique power. She can communicate with insects. And so in this movie, they're trying to find out who is doing these killings. And so our main character, Jennifer, meets Professor McGregor, played by the great Donald Pleasance, who doesn't do the best Scottish accent.
I guess they sense the mood I'm in.
I'm often in a bad mood. Upset about something, but they don't carry on like this. In ancient Greece, the butterfly symbolized the soul, the so-called psyche.
But we're gonna forgive him for that because he's freaking awesome. He's Donald Pleasance. Now, I guess the first thing we want to talk about is the fact that this is a Dario Argento movie. Now, Argento's movies are very different than, you know, your normal slasher or just straight up horror movies. Hell, even different than other Italian directors. He just has this unique stamp to his movies, visually, also musically. You know, he used Goblin in this movie much like he did Suspiria. And we'll get into the score of this, actually. That's a very interesting thing to talk about. But really, I guess that's the big point about Argento's films, this one included. There's just something always around the corner that's just visually or tonally interesting. You know, he completely keeps your interest throughout the whole thing. And I like that this one is like a mixture of two genres. You know, you got this character that is telepathic. I guess that's your like X-Men story there. And then you got this slasher movie. So it's like mixing X-Men with a slasher movie. Now, I believe this was Jennifer Connelly's first movie, or at least one of her first movies. And boy, what a big role to take on. And I gotta say, she's pretty damn convincing in this. She has definitely grown into you know, an Academy Award winning actress. You can see the novice abilities that she has there. You know, she's no expert at this point, but she definitely holds the movie on her shoulders and does a good job, actually.
What are you doing here?
I was following a...
Who are you? Came here to steal, did you?
No, I was looking for someone.
You were looking for someone.
But she really is kind of our guide throughout this whole movie. Even throughout like the second killing of the movie. She has this problem with like sleepwalking, and she's sleepwalking when the first murder happens, actually. And so when she goes to Dr. McGregor for her sleepwalking problem, that's where he turns to her to help solve this case, to help find out who's doing these murders. And also you'll notice in this movie that there is kind of a mix of nationalities. Sometimes you will hear like an English dub. Like all the actors were speaking in English in this movie, but sometimes...
Have you any idea why they behave like that? Never done this before.
Probabilmente è per causa mia.
An Italian language will creep through. Or I guess it was Dutch in this movie because they were in Sweden. I don't know. Now, as far as the music in this movie goes, it's kind of all over the place because I really dig the score, like the main theme by Goblin in this. But then there's a couple moments in this where it just jumps into like heavy metal. Like you got Motorhead and you got Flash of the Blade by Iron Maiden. And I love those songs. But if I'm being honest, it kind of threw me for a loop during the movie. It just didn't fit in some of the scenes. And I will say, you know, even the Goblin score is not as profound as what it was in Suspiria. But I mean, how do you compete with that? Like Suspiria, the soundtrack to Suspiria is one of the greatest soundtracks I've ever heard. But this still is a very memorable soundtrack. It's definitely serviceable. I mean, you're gonna get that with most Argento movies anyway. Now, I will say, this movie, it is kind of long. You know, for a slasher movie, it's like 2 hours long. And there are moments where they are building the story. And you just kind of have to, I guess, tough it out through that. But thankfully, the final act in this is excellent and kind of shocking. And I know a lot of my viewers probably haven't seen Phenomena, so I won't spoil it for you. But what I will say is it's quite surprising in more than one spot and really bloody. And I guess that's an interesting thing to talk about with this, with the violence. Some of the scenes, you know, the weapon in this, it's just kind of a straight up spike, like this metal spike. And some of the scenes, there's no real big payoff, but it's like they held all the payoff for the final act. So you need to know that. You know, if you're watching this thing and you're like, man, I wish the violence was kind of kicked up a little bit more, it's all there for you in the end, trust me. But overall, guys, I'm definitely giving Phenomena a purchase worthy. It's another very satisfying Argento movie. And I'm looking forward to watching more of his films like Deep Red. I've heard Deep Red's even better than this one. So that's gonna be fun. And I still have to do part 2 and 3 of the Mother's trilogy, but I've heard part 3, I think it's the Mother of Tears or something like that, is not that good. But still looking forward to it. So anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on Phenomena? Have you seen it? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.